Well, more of the same. The thinking with Horsemen has always been, I have no desire to be a nationwide provider. We live in a state with 40 million people. We've branched out to a couple of other states, more so at the request of our clients than a desire to expand. And we're at a level of investigations here in California that probably is 1/1000th of the available investigations that are out there. So there doesn't seem to be a need to travel to all parts of the United States when we can grow Horsemen year over year right here in our own backyard. We are in fantastic shape. It's been a long journey there. I mean, I can tell you in 25 years, you have good years, you have bad years. I can remember about year 4 of Horsemen, we were banking with a bank right down the street. And we had a working line of credit with them for like $250,000, and we had $240,000 of the loan or the line of credit being used. And I got a phone call from the banker saying, we made a decision not to do business with companies your size anymore, and you have 60 days to repay your loan and find a new bank. And I mean, those are gut punches. You're just like, wow, how do you get over that? So you do things like drain your personal 401k and you drain your savings, and we paid that loan off. We found another bank, and years later, I can't tell you how many times we lost our number one client, and that's a significant blow to try to overcome. And then you're trying to overcome it by keeping everybody working. I think we might be the only company that does customer service work, where we just literally make up hours to keep our field investigators. I mean, to me, that's when you go back to that question about what are you proudest of. In our industry, the normal investigator lasts for about 2 years. Our field investigators, on average, is closer to 10. So that's something that, I mean, we try to go out of our way to take care of the people that work here. Well, again, I mean, it comes down to, what's your definition of success and what's your definition of what makes you happy and whatnot. I've never really had a big picture. I mean, I literally loved being an investigator. I did not want to be a manager. They coaxed me into being a manager, and I did that for a couple of years, but still enjoyed the surveillance end of the business. When I made the decision to start Horsemen, I felt that we could do a much better job of training people, not bringing in people with bad habits, and letting it kind of organically grow. We have not been a company that's ever been so profitable that we can just throw large amounts of money at different areas. We are willing to expand into new locations, but that has to be something that is, again, organically grown. I think if I told Ed that we were going to go back into Washington or Oregon, he'd probably shoot me because of how many people we've hired, trained, and put in the field in Washington and Oregon, only to then go to a nationwide provider because we can't keep those people busy. So I did see a question where one of the account managers was asking, can we go into these other areas? That's up to our account managers. One thing I always tell the account managers is you have to look at your position as an account manager as you're running your own investigative company. And you can take it anywhere you want to, and I'm more than happy to provide you with, I can't think of a day where an account manager's asked me for something that we haven't been able to provide for them. If it's a one-off case in some outlying area, might not necessarily be the best way to spend our money. But if you find accounts that they have a significant, I tell you the story about Hawaii. We were asked to go to Hawaii by Liberty Mutual, and we went to Hawaii, and they told us they had all this work. And I'll tell you, for the first 5 years we were in Hawaii, we lost our shirt. We weren't making enough money. We weren't keeping people busy. We ended up getting rid of the staff over there and flying people back and forth. But we've been there now, I think, since 2005, I think it was. And it's our most profitable place now. But I'll tell you, for the first 5 years, if I had to go out and do that again, I wouldn't do it.
What would be the next level or goal as far as development for the company?
I would say we probably need to expand our focus. We have account managers and salespeople that refer to things as work comp all the time. If you're speaking to a disability or a liability firm and you're using work comp terms, they look at it as you're not necessarily privy to the ins and outs of their particular industry. And trust me, they are very, very aware. I mean, if you call an attorney who handles disability and you would say, do you handle work comp? He'd be looking down at you. So again, it really comes down to is how we all go about our job, how we all invest in our skill sets. If someone came to me and said, let's do fire investigations, we can do fire investigations. We don't have a fire investigator here, but you can certainly hire one. We don't do those types of investigations because it's not necessarily in our wheelhouse. You have to look at it as, I came into what I do from a company that literally, the first company I worked for, the first company I worked for was all surveillance, and the owner died in a plane crash. So the whole business went out. And then I went for a company that specialized in undercover investigations. So I never did the undercover stuff, but I had to end up managing it years later. And I didn't enjoy that. I mean, it was literally you were babysitting someone, making sure that they got up every single day to get to their warehouse job. It was a different level of investigator, so it was much more frustrating. So it was one of the reasons why we don't do it. We don't do domestic investigations, and people always ask why, and it's like, well, two reasons. You don't need to do domestic investigations in California. If you don't want to be married, just say you don't want to be married. You don't have to go out and find anything. And more importantly, the domestic investigations are usually cases that happen much later in the day. So if you're out on a domestic case, you're sometimes staying up till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And then if your next case is a insurance related case, you're expected to be on site 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. So those two types of industries, and again, you can certainly handle both types, but I'll be honest with you, I never really enjoyed looking at other people's troubles. I have no problem going after people that are stealing and whatnot, but at the end of the day, it's like, look, if you're having issues, keep it in-house, do what you can to try and make things better, but I really don't have that interest in running after that. I'm gonna leave that up to the account managers. If you have accounts that we can service in that and they're consistent, I think that's kind of been the underlying word throughout this whole chat is if the work is consistent, we'll do whatever we need to do. We could, but as I said earlier, we live in a state with 40 million people, and we do less than $10 million worth of investigative business per year here. There is absolutely no reason we couldn't be a $20 million company, a $30 million company, a $40 million company right here in California. So my personal desire has not to be jumping on airplanes and flying all over the country. Going back to what do you find as being successful? For me, it's hanging out with my kids and being at home. And I can honestly say for maybe 90% of the time when my kids were younger, I took them to school every single morning. That to me, that in itself is a measurement of success. So there is no desire to push the envelope for us to expand into other states. As I said, if it happens organically, it happens organically. Well, we tried that once. I don't want to say it was a disaster. No, we said it's right, Ed. We tried it. We did try it twice. The answer to that is no, and the reason for that is the majority of the people we do work for are the S.I.U. departments within the companies. I mean, our biggest clients have always been like Chubb and Liberty Mutual. That we do work for their S.I.U. departments. And what they don't want is an outside vendor to have an S.I.U. department because they feel that that is a threat. So if you're a smart salesperson and you're going after the key type of client for Horsemen, you would be going after an S.I.U. based insurance company. Well, I'll tell you right now, I think there's one glaring new business opportunity out there, and that would be to investigate whether or not these companies that are telling their landlords and whatnot that they can't pay the rent are they working or they're not working. So large real estate investment firms and whatnot certainly could use our services from a surveillance standpoint. We'll ramp up very, very quickly because of the fact that we do a lot of insurance work, obviously, but the bulk of it is workers' comp. We do a fair share of liability, but even if liability is down, our other case loads will ramp up quickly. We don't do a ton of automotive. We should be, but we don't. And that's just our salespeople need to go out after that work. But the automotive claims are down tremendously because of the fact that nobody's driving right now. But the work's out there. The people that I've spoken to and the individuals that assign us our work are the people that I speak to the most. And they're basically saying that there's all the cases that we were working prior, there are all these cases that are coming in now. You have all these individuals who are now working from home, so you'll see a very large spike in workers' comp cases that happened at the house. You'll see post-termination claims increase. So I would say that the moment the governor or whoever indicates that the state of California and the state of Hawaii are back open, we'll see a very quick, and I'm talking 3 or 4 weeks, return to our normal levels.